A big hello to everyone. I'm Ankita from NASSCOM. Thrilled to begin our second episode from our blockchain series. Again, I have with me Irfan Khan, digital economist and founder of Hypermind. In first episode, he discussed about the decentralization and importance of blockchain. Today seems even more interesting as he will talk about the use cases from different verticals like healthcare, SCM. So stay tuned and listen to him. Before I hand over to him, two more things from my side. The session is divided into two parts. Irfan will pause for a while after 15-20 minutes and will answer a few questions, post which we will continue the webinar, again followed by the Q&A. Secondly, please provide your feedback to help me improve my future sessions. Over to you, Irfan.
Thanks, Ankita. Hi, everybody. I'm not sure which of you attended our first episode, but that was an interesting one where we discussed the essence of what blockchains are and how they're helping with the whole decentralization movement. So after moving forward from the last time, we wanted to actually understand a bit deeper. And of course, a lot of feedback we got from all the attendees the last time was how and where and when do we use this technology? There are a lot of question marks, there are a lot of doubts that need to be cleared, that a lot of the right concepts need to be, I mean, it's still a very new technology, right? So a lot of people still find it difficult when to and how to apply the tools that are available and the circumstances in which it is applicable. So that's what the session is all about, trying to understand how and where a blockchain actually is used. Blockchain also has a sort of bad reputation, if you like, because there are a lot of people who recommend blockchains in use cases where they're not really required. And so, investors and CIOs just turn around and say, look, this is not really a use case because I can do this with existing technology. And this is what has really given blockchain a bad name, because we're not able to identify the right use case to be able to ensure that there is a successful use case adoption in the markets. I have segmented this talk into a couple of points, into a couple of parts, but the most important section of understanding blockchain application is, number one, to identify the tools. If there is anything you want to build, whether it's a house or a car or an application, you need to understand your tools that are available to you that are going to help you to build that product. You need to also understand the players in the ecosystem. Remember, blockchain is always about ecosystem. You can create blockchains without an ecosystem, but this is not the most fruitful sort of, or not the most, it's not the best way to use it, right? And the third part of the process would be to create the value chain. What is exactly happening on the blockchain? So once we identify these three things, it becomes much easier to be able to place in your mind how to go about creating blockchain use cases. We'll take a few of the slides from the last time. There are three essential categories of blockchains. They come in three flavors. The ideal and the best way and the best use of the blockchain technology is the permissionless blockchain, which is Ethereum and Bitcoin, where anyone and everyone can use it and anyone can get on the network. All you have to do is buy your hardware, install the blockchain operating system, and you are part of the network. You are doing whatever you need to do on the network. A different flavor, and it has been taken from the public blockchain, is the permission blockchain, or the hyperledger, or the private blockchain as it's called. It's more used in government / enterprise type environments where you have closed environments. And a good analogy for this is, if you go back in the 90s, you had the internet, which was completely open. And then you had all these big corporations like HSBC and the banks and so on. They had their own internal, what is called the intranets. It was not really essential to the evolution of the internet, but it was a phase in which people did not want their employees to go out on the big bad internet and still stick with local intranets, so they have safe zone. A third flavor, which is a hybrid blockchain. It is essentially an application like Ripple, where anyone can join, but you still need approvals and you need authority from one person to actually approve you to join this network. I'm not going to go too much detail into these three, but it's good for you to understand that there are these three high-level basic blockchains. However, what's more important to understand is the tools available to you. Now, this is key. I'm going to go through these one by one, but not into too much detail because it will take up too much time. But what is important for you to understand is please screenshot this, go and understand these tools in more details, see how they will help you. The more of these tools you have in one use case, the more rich, the more valuable the use case that you are going to create for yourself or your company or your client or your country or whatever it is. Let's take them one by one. Consensus. Consensus is essentially an algorithm. Now remember, when you are working with an ecosystem and there is no one central entity, so no one Uber, no one Facebook to govern what is happening, you need a community, you need a democracy of sorts to agree on what is right and what is wrong, what is acceptable and what is not. There are different types of algorithms, proof of work, proof of stake. I'm sure you've heard of them. Please go and do your homework. Try to understand in better detail what these algorithms do and how they work. As a summary, it is basically trying to get a vote between all the participants on the network to accept and what not to accept. Very simply put. Cryptography, again, these are used as algorithms. Cryptography, again, is a very old sort of, it's a very old science, more than 2,000 years old. They are using cryptography now in blockchains to be able to ensure security, to be able to ensure privacy, anonymity, things like zero knowledge proof on which Zcash has been built on. Please go and do your homework on hashing, Merkle trees, public key infrastructure. So using cryptography to achieve certain security on the blockchains. You have ledgers. Ledgers is, of course, what is the main tool, which is what the distributed ledger technology is all about. Each ledger which records all the information and transactions is stored on each computer in the network, which basically has access to, even if half the network goes down, there is still a few ledgers still available on the network so everybody can access it, which is what adds to the security as well as adds to decentralization. Nodes is the essential part of the blockchain, which is each entity that is holding a bit of the network. So it's essentially a piece of hardware with the blockchain operating system on it, which helps you become a node. There are different types of nodes, like a master node or a minor node or a major node, depending on what roles they have on what the blockchain is. There are oracles. So inherently, blockchains are closed to the outside world. They don't really get a lot of information from different parts of the internet or different parts of data sources. So oracles have been created to take information from the outside world, such as, I don't know, weather data or price fluctuations, market prices, and so on. Smart contracts, again, this is another piece of code, which is, again, a very useful tool on the blockchain. It's basically, since you don't have a central authority to take decisions, a smart contract is the one that executes certain conditional code. So when you have a contract in place with someone, the smart contract essentially makes sure that this is executed accordingly. So if there are payments to be made, or if there is some action to be taken, so a smart contract can be linked very nicely with an oracle saying, if the temperature increases by 5 degrees outside, cancel the shipment as null, because the shipment of medicines going in the box may be compromised. So things like that, combining smart contracts with oracles is a very nice use case also. And finally, there are tokens. Now, tokens is the most important part of a blockchain. They are basically generated on a blockchain, and they are managed also on the blockchain. It helps with transfer of value. It helps with currency exchange. It helps with security. It helps with a lot of things. Unfortunately, in India, there's still not a lot of traction on this. The government is not supporting for whatever reason. But it's important to understand its use. It's important to understand what it's meant for. It's important to understand that it's there as a, to put it very simply, as a loyalty scheme, as a loyalty program for the people who are running the blockchain as well. So there are many uses how to motivate people to do certain things and not do certain things using the tokens. So security, distribution of ledgers, information, all this are different ways that the blockchain uses these tools to capture that information, secure that information, share that information along with everyone in the network. So please screenshot this and go through it when you have time. Now we will jump into how these tools are actually specific to industry, right? There are a lot of ways to build a use case. Now, this was essentially a joke by, which is a Birch model. You don't always need a blockchain, and that's true. The fact of the matter is you need to be able to identify the right space and the right time and the right application for where blockchain is going to be used. So please be careful. Screenshot this again. Everyone has a different model. So IBM, Gartner, DHS, each of them have come up with their own ideologies and their own thought processes as to how and when and why and how you would actually use a blockchain in a certain scenario. Always remember that you need to have a certain scenario. So you need to either build a blockchain for your company, for your industry, for your school, for your country, or even for just for your friends. If your friends want to have your own network, you can do that. So please go and study what other models there are. Screenshot this, go and Google these models, very easy to find. I'm sure you'll be able to find them. So what I have essentially done is we've broken it down, and now we will take it into industry specific. So I think a lot of you had requested a payment sort of use case. The payment use case is not rocket science, right? I mean, you have essentially person A sending money to person B, and I'm sure you've seen this in 1,000 slides, that the person sending money from A to B, maybe in a different country to another country, sends the money from A to B. There are a lot of banks involved in between. There is a lot of exchange rate fluctuations. It takes 2 to 3 days. There are a lot of bank charges, which essentially leads to an unhappy user. So when you move this use case to a blockchain, what you're basically doing is you are eliminating the need for all the central authority in between. You are moving now purely to a blockchain-based use case where the only cost involved is the blockchain application fees. Right. So the thing is, the fiat is changed to crypto, and the crypto is basically changed to fiat. So it cuts the payment time in half, and it's pretty. I mean, it's what Bitcoin is doing right now. So it's pretty well known to what everyone's doing. But what I want to talk about is something a little bit more interesting. Let's take a more rich use case. Let's take something which has more value, and let's take healthcare in this case. But healthcare is just a place to start. But I want to be able to show you how you can include various use cases in one vertical, right? So healthcare is a good place to start. So let's just go step by step and see how this works. So the first and foremost entity in the healthcare ecosystem is the patient. The patient is the first person who's going to be using the network. The second is the clinic. The clinic is a second entity that is going to be using the network. Now remember, the patient goes to the clinic to get whatever checkup, treatment done, and so on and so forth. The third entity in a healthcare use case is an insurance provider, which is more and more common nowadays. When a patient goes to the clinic checks with the insurance to see if they will pay or cover the insurance or not. The third is the retail. Right, so the retail entity is actually the one who is going to be dispensing the drugs. The fourth is the pharma. Now, God forbid, if someone has a very severe case of cancer or something, the big pharmaceutical manufacturers can also get involved and provide some help in terms of giving you cheaper chemotherapy or some sort of support, or just some drugs. The last but not least is in most cases, if you don't have the money, or if a patient doesn't have the money, they can approach charities, right? So the charity also sometimes will come forward and say, okay, fine, I can support this case. So now when you look at it this way, when you try to understand a use case in terms of an ecosystem, now you come to understand that how rich the blockchain application actually is. You have the patient, which is, so all you people who are asking for healthcare records. Now, in this context, you understand how small the healthcare records use case actually is. It's just one small thing in the big picture, right? So when the patient goes to the clinic, the patient has to register. So you have KYC. You have a KYC use case. Once the clinic does all the medical records checkup and they are fed onto the blockchain, now you have a medical records use case, which uses cryptography to basically secure and add privacy on the network. Now you have insurance involved in it. So again, you have insurance use cases in the whole application. You have pharma. So as soon as the pharma gets involved, now you have supply chain, because the pharma has to ensure that all the drugs and all the equipment and whatever is required for the patient is available in the clinic as well as the retail. And then you have charity involved in this as well. Charity also wants to know how much money they have given to which patient through which clinic. So there is an exchange of data. So now you are beginning to understand that a blockchain use case in such an environment adds so much clarity, it adds so much value, it adds so much process. So before, a patient would need to run around to the clinic, you would need to go to the insurance, you would need to contact the pharma. All this thing now can be done on the blockchain without going anywhere. All the patient has to do is register on the blockchain, go to the clinic, get the healthcare done, and the blockchain takes care of the rest. The smart contracts, the cryptography, the consensus, all the tools are used to ensure that the flow of the transaction is maintained. The smart contracts are in place to ensure that the payments are done on time and the deal is always moved forward and never stopped. It even shows transparency as to where a possible transaction could be stuck in the whole process, right? So let's come back to these tools again and see how much sense it makes. So now you're using consensus on that same network to ensure that all the information being added is correct, all the transactions that are happening is correct, people agree with, because there is no more a central authority that is saying, yes, I accept this application for charity, or I don't accept this application for charity, or no, this person is not eligible to pharmaceutical benefit. Then there is cryptography. We're using actually cryptographic mediums to ensure there's privacy. So some information will be available, full information will be available to the clinic, but some information will not be available to the charity, for let's say, or the insurance company will have some information. So there are different levels of information that is required to be shared, and cryptography can help you do that. It can help you share relevant information to the relevant parties and not just have a completely closed system or a completely open system, that everything is either shown, everything is completely hidden. You have ledgers. So each and every entity on that blockchain or on the network has a copy of the copy. So even if one node goes down, or if one piece of information gets lost or broken, the other nodes still have the right information to share. The nodes, of course, are decentralization and distributed. These are what adds the power to the blockchain, in the sense there is no one central authority to take decisions. There is a collective decision making happening between all the entities. Smart contracts, again, here are being used by the insurance companies to measure market rates, by the pharmaceutical companies to measure transportation rates. There is so much information required from outside the blockchain as well. And then, of course, the token and digitization is the most important, because when there is a payment to be made, you don't waste time with the bank saying, okay, it'll take a day or two to make the payment, all this stuff. The smart contracts immediately ensure that the payment is made in cryptocurrency. And if there is a fiat requirement, in this case, this can be settled outside the blockchain. But the fact of the matter is the payment still is done immediately through cryptocurrency. We'll break for questions. Do we have any questions? No questions? How can we get the first episode, Athar? Why don't you ping me offline? We'll figure it out. Who's this? Sushmita. What are the steps recommended to? Oops, sorry. Can you explain a smart contract? Ajit, a smart contract is essentially code. It's just code which executes terms and conditions, to put it very lamely, in a layman's terms, in a chronological sequence, so that everything is running in order. How do I get all the parties to adopt? Yes, this is a very good question. This is a very, very good question, and we will be discussing that, because getting a whole industry to adopt and pay for an application is not easy. Usually, you use government entities like the healthcare authority to move something like this. What language are smart contracts written in? Depends on the blockchain. Ethereum is different, Bitcoin is different. You can find that information online. How do you suggest onboarding of different partners? Ranjit, I'm trying to find your, hang on. How do you suggest onboarding of different partners as you deploy a block? Oops, not able to read that question. Ankita, can you read the last few questions out? Ankita, you there? How do you suggest onboarding different partners? Can you talk about the sort of public blockchain? Who hosts infrastructure for blockchain? Okay, who hosts infrastructure for blockchain? That's also a good question. It depends. If it's a public blockchain like Ethereum, you need everyone to host it. Everyone and anyone, as many people, the more people, the better. If it's an enterprise use, it's probably the primary node holder. So in our case, if it's healthcare, you would need the hospital and probably the insurance firm to at least, the more nodes, the better. The more nodes, the better. Let's put it that way. And then what else do we have? What else we got? Okay. Just 1 second, guys. I'm facing a bit of a technical glitch. Are all the steps in blockchain sequential between nodes? On the Bitcoin, yes. There are new technologies coming out where you have non-sequential as well, such as DAGs. You can do some homework on that, direct acrylic graphs. Can a public and private blockchain be integrated? Can a public and private blockchain be in Soumya? I don't know why you would want to do that, but how you would typically do that is you would have smaller chains within public blockchains. So that's what Ethereum is, right? So Ethereum allows you to build smaller chains onto their big public blockchains. So you have your level of privacy, security, or whatever you need. You don't build a private blockchain separately. You would just have smaller blockchains than a public blockchain. Storing information on blockchain is very high compared to, yes, it is. For the consensus, what could example of what could be an example of a private blockchain? We will discuss that now. So the healthcare option we were talking about right now, it's a good example of a private blockchain. What are the key security concerns around blockchain and cryptocurrency? Depends. If it's a private blockchain, key security concerns in private blockchains is essentially lower than public blockchains. Public blockchains would be a 51% attack, cryptography attack. Private blockchains, again, are closed sort of networks, so it depends. There are security concerns around how the cryptography is usually implemented. So you do have attacks. It's very possible. Like storing information on blockchain is very high compared to traditional databases. That is correct. That is correct. Ankita, are you there? Ankita? I'm not able to get all these questions out, unfortunately. Okay, here we go. Fine. So let's go. We'll take another 5 minutes of questions and then get back onto what are the threats to blockchain in terms of web. What is the best approach? Can you talk? Okay, so Varun, can you talk about cloud, Azure, and building blockchain on cloud? That's a very good question. So all the big boys, so Google Cloud, Azure, all these guys are offering blockchain on the cloud, but the whole point of blockchain is to get away from these centralized sort of entities. So we want a free public internet, and we want free decentralization and free speech. You can use public cloud to build blockchain applications for like usually enterprise, but it's not what it was built for. But definitely you can do that. In a kind of Ethereum setup, who governs the transactions? Avinash Sinha. Who governs transactions? Usually the person, whoever's built the smart contract would be the right person to answer this question, what the transactions are. So who hosts infrastructure for blockchain? Usually it's the nodes. If all nodes keep data in sync, how does scalability and performance work over? There's some issue with this. What could I'm just trying to find some more interesting questions. Can you name any known private blockchain? You mean like an implemented technology? Maersk has one. Hyperledger is from IBM. Check Hyperledger and all the implementations. What would be an impact on DLT and quantum computing? Okay, so this is a very good question, Shivanganam. Sorry if I got your name wrong. So the whole idea behind Merkle trees and cryptography on which the communication of blockchain and how data is stored on blockchains could be completely destroyed because of quantum computing. So quantum computing is considered to be a major threat to how blockchain exists, but I guess they would also evolve the technology accordingly. What is the best approach to pull external information by the smart contract itself? You would need an oracle, Sumit, to pull out external information. What are the threats? What else? What else? Can you name any known private blockchain? We've done that. What all recommended approaches? Used to manage private keys. What all recommended approaches could be used to manage private keys for the users to interact with the blockchain? So Smith, okay. So of course you have the traditional method of key management, but how keys are being managed nowadays is, especially when it comes to public key cryptography and key generation, it's usually being done on the fly. So it's not, you don't need the use of traditional HSMs anymore. You probably don't need those high security modules to ensure the keys are managed. Even if keys are lost or if keys need to be replaced, they can be done very, very quickly. Why don't you ping me offline and we can have a discussion on that, because one of our products is doing exactly this key management for identity project. Suppose Soumya says, suppose all the patients are connected over public blockchain, and banks, insurance, pharma clinics are connected over private blockchain. So it's a side chain sort of question, Soumya. We can take that offline as well. Please do ping me. We'll have a discussion on that. Can you show some more use cases related to banking? Murthy, there are a lot of use cases related to banking. So you can basically run a bank without the bank. So you can one of the main issues that the banks are not supporting cryptocurrency is that if they allow cryptocurrency in, they don't need banks anymore per se. So it's quite powerful in the sense of a use case. It's better to be more specific. So in what area of banking are you looking for? So maybe we can talk about that offline. Can you explain the use in stock market? Stock market, yeah, we can do that. Prashant, can you please ping me? We'll have a stock market discussion offline, because I need to understand exactly what you want to do in the stock market as well. Why is the adoption rate slower for blockchain than in other industries beyond banking? Senthil, this is a very good question. One of the main issues around the adoption. Okay, so what you have to understand about blockchain is that there's usually not one entity which runs a blockchain. It's usually a decentralized sort of environment. So you have a lot of transaction throughput problems. We will discuss that here. You have a lot of learning curve problems. People need to understand how to manage, how to use these new technologies. So the adoption is much slower. How to ensure it is more secured approach over other security mechanisms. We will discuss security slightly. Security is managed differently in blockchains because we are now approaching a decentralized sort of security version where you are not only just building firewalls and moats and things like that. You actually have a consensus-based security and a cryptography level security and a tokenization level security. So there are many flavors of security involved in this. So that's why it's a bit different. Okay, cool. I think we'll take one or two more questions and then we can move ahead. What is the best approach? Well, what have I missed? Have I missed anything here? Who hosts infrastructure of blockchains? All the nodes. Okay, all the steps in blockchain are sequential, not always. They are building new technologies which are not. Can a public and private blockchain be integrated? I think we answered that. Yes, it can, but I think there is some work will be required. Usually what people are doing, if you want private features on a public blockchain, you can build subchains. So go check a protocol called Zaggle or Zag protocol, Z-A-G-G. It's one of the protocols we are working on to build privacy on public blockchains. If all nodes, how does scalability and performance work? Okay, what is this? Okay, I think we're done here. I'm just trying to see if there's another one, any last interesting question which we can take. Can we implement blockchain without cryptocurrency? Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. Most private blockchains don't have cryptocurrency, but you can even create your own public blockchain without cryptocurrency. But cryptocurrency, of course, adds a level of economic sort of an angle to the whole thing. It adds behavioral modification, it adds token economics, game theory. It adds security in the sense that if you are getting paid by your network, you would not allow it to get compromised. So, and if you also look at Telangana now, Telangana has recently launched their state blockchain policy, where they're talking about how they're talking about promoting blockchains and the ecosystem, but there is no mention of cryptocurrency at all. So yeah, you can do that. Okay, last question. If it is not hosted by a trusted authority, then how can we make sure that no one tampered with the data? Okay, you need to go and check what Merkle trees are. We will talk about Merkle trees a little bit ahead, but they are essentially, you need to go and do your homework on hashing and Merkle trees, Nirupam. Okay, you can also ping me later, we can talk about it. So let's get back, guys. Let's see, how does this work? Okay, let's go back. Oops. Okay. Shall we get back to this now? So now what we'll do is we will dig a bit deeper into, we will dig a little bit deeper into all these questions. So what I've done is I've broke, now you need to ask, now that you've understood about the ecosystem and how exactly a process flow goes through step by step. So between the patient and the insurance and the clinic and so on and so forth, the process flow that used to happen manually before between all these entities is now being managed by the blockchain, right? So you need to ask yourself a series of questions, and you can screenshot these questions and ask yourself each time you want to build a use case, how is it going to help you, right? So I will go, now this is my opinion, and I'm sure that in a couple of months of you building your own blockchain use cases, you will also come up with your own questions. As technology also improves, as all new blockchains coming out, these questions will evolve. So please don't take this as the holy grail of all blockchain use case identifiers, but just as a guideline to give you an in-depth understanding on how to build richer use cases. Let's start with the ecosystem. Okay, like I mentioned before, blockchain is all about ecosystem. It's about bringing industries, economies, group of people, community. It's all about community. How can we build community, right? The first and foremost question you need to ask yourself is, do you need to connect a network of participants? Yes, definitely go on blockchain. If no, you can still blockchain, but it's not the ideal use. How will you do it? You will use nodes and Merkle trees to make that happen. Now, how it's going to work, I'm not going to go into that because it's going to take a lot of time, right? So you can use nodes and Merkle trees to make that happen for you. Then the next question. Are the multiple participants required to update records of it? Now, in our case, in our last use case, we had the insurance company, we had the clinic, we had the patient, we had the charity. So all these people are required to add data, to add records, to add information onto the blockchain. So definitely this makes a good use case that you have more than one entity on a shared ledger that is required to share information and update, and everyone else has that information as well. So distributed ledgers, hashing functions, and again, Merkle trees are your answer to go and do blockchain on this part. Is there a need for trust? How do you ensure that the information being posted is correct, and by whom and how? Right? How can you make sure that the information coming in is authentic? That's how blockchain can help you. Again, here we use consensus, where we take a majority vote on most of the people by most of the senior or major nodes who will approve or disapprove or reject or approve any post or any additional data that is coming onto the blockchain. Is the network dependent on other stakeholders for information? So in our case, even if you're a node holder, you can have, I don't know, maybe the retail store, or there are new users coming in all the time, new patients coming in all the time. So there is requirement of data to be put in. So blockchain can definitely help you here. And you would achieve that by using nodes, consensus again, anyone who adds new data has to go through a consensus mechanism where everyone has to agree that this data block is added and source authenticity is required as well. Is there a need to eliminate a central authority? So you want to get away from the Ubers and the Facebooks of this world. You are essentially replacing these massive giants with a computer application, to put it simply, and distribute the responsibility among the participants. Again, you are using node profiling here. You will have major nodes, minor nodes, run network. You will have consensus, and there is some level of smart contracts also you can use to actually make sure that you are fixing whatever is required to be, in the sense you're removing the responsibility from one central authority and distributing that same power over the network. So decentralization is key here. Will there be new participants joining the ecosystem in the future? You have to always be ready for this. Okay, you have to always ask yourself, yes, we are building one network, but it would make sense for you to look at a hybrid sort of blockchain in this case. That if you see what Ripple is doing, Ripple has a hybrid blockchain and they keep adding new banks all the time. So you would need to go for a private. You can do it on a public blockchain, or you can do it on a completely hybrid blockchain as well, depending on what the requirements are. But always make sure that there is room for new participants to enter the ecosystem. Now, since you've got the ecosystem clear, what we are now going to jump into is the value clearly defined. What is exactly the blockchain going to be doing? What is the value of it? What is happening on the blockchain, and what is it going to do? So first and foremost, it's a shared database, right? Why do you need a shared database? So even if one database gets lost, corrupted, hacked, broken, whatever, a link goes down, node goes down, the remaining ledgers, the remaining nodes on the network still have the same ledger available from the last state. This is critical. So it always ensures that the data is being updated and the ledger is being updated, and there is always an exact share of that data from the last state on the whole network. So in our case, again, we have 6 or 7 different participants who are definitely sharing information. They are also sharing value. So if there are payments to be made, so the cryptocurrency is being transferred between the users, between the nodes. So it is essential that a blockchain, this is a very, very good use case for a blockchain. And you can do this by using distributed ledgers as well as hashing functions. Smart contracts, how and why, and there are so many questions revolving around how the insurance will be managed. How will the big pharma who have to invest a lot of money to manage their supply chain be managed? So there are a lot of contracts involved. You use smart contracts to essentially ensure that all the functions that are required to be carried out by a central authority, which are not required anymore, is now carried out by the smart contracts. So like all payments, delivery lead times, quality assurance, all these things are now governed by smart contracts. Do you need transparency on transactions? Do you want anyone and everyone to be able to see the transactions? Is it an open ledger? If you need this, you would probably go for a public blockchain where everything is open, like Bitcoin, everything is open. You can see what everyone is doing, where the currency is going back and forth, everything. Now, on the flip side, if you need privacy or anonymity on the transactions, you would probably need to build smaller private blockchains on the public blockchain, or you will build your own private blockchain on Hyperledger / hybrid blockchain if required. So you will again use cryptography, zero knowledge proof. Please go read up on that. It's coming in a big way. Public key infrastructure to manage privacy or anonymity on blockchains. Do you need to monetize data assets? So essentially what this is asking is that, do you need to transfer value? Do you need to somehow create tokenization? Do you need to exchange value between yourself? So when you're exchanging some sort of value, you need to be able to ensure that that is secure. That is also a ledger, that's also recorded on a ledger. So what the blockchain allows you to do is tokenize very quickly whatever is of value or asset on your network, and you are able to exchange and transact that quickly between each other. So definitely it's a good blockchain use case. This is a question you really need to dig into, because usually blockchains are very expensive at this point. Always go back and ask, how are you going to pay for it? Do you have budgets to actually go and support something like this? Usually they cost so much that it's very difficult to justify something like this. So if you have the cost, yes, please go ahead and blockchain. Now, technical feasibility. There's certain technical issues which you will face. Of course, it's not that it's non-technical. It's quite technical. It's quite difficult. So the first question you want to ask yourself, is there an ongoing need for high data storage or transaction throughput? Now, be careful here. Be very careful. Blockchains do not support really high, the kind of TPS that we are used to right now with the banks and the payment networks and whatever existing networks that are, and what basically processing power the cloud offers. Blockchains do not offer that right now. You do have technologies coming out like DAGs where they are developing faster throughput and and transaction speed, but I think we're still a year or two away from that. So if you are planning a use case which requires immediate deployment, please make sure you ask yourself this question: do you have high data storage requirements or transaction throughput? And ensure you make a sound decision before you go into this. Does the network require public data sources? So do you need to pull information like markets, prices, geolocation, and weather? This is usually used by oracles. So you will use an oracle here to pull external information onto the blockchain, and also ensure that your smart contracts are linked properly to the oracle, so there is automatic triggering. So if there is a market fluctuation in prices, you can buy and sell. If there is a temperature fluctuation, you can stop certain shipments going in and out, geolocation markets, and so on. So just make sure that you also ask this question each time you're building a use case: do you need external information coming into the network or not? Do you plan to digitize assets in your value chain? Do you want to? So if you are currently exchanging some level of value outside of currency, do you want to make sure that you are able to build some sort of accounting system, if you like, outside of actually sending money to each other? So if you are saying that I have, I don't know, let's say 5 tons of steel with me, and I'm giving them to someone else. So instead of generating a financial value, you can quickly make it into a token and say, okay, I'm giving you 5 tons worth of cryptocurrency or tokenization. So it makes it easy to ensure you're tokenizing whatever assets you have in your company right now, right? So if you're selling even gold for that matter, it's very easy to tokenize gold. Each tola of gold, you can have 1 token, something like this. So if you're planning to digitize assets in your value chain, blockchain can really help you. Rich and complex data structures, also blockchains are good, but it really depends on the complex data structure that you're planning to store. We can have an offline discussion on this. It gets quite technical because it depends on the data structure. But usually, yes, it is recommended that you can use a blockchain to store complex data structures. Now, there are a few questions, there are a few points that you have to understand, that if where a blockchain is not required, please don't try and force your way in there. Don't push it in there. There are 1 or 2 questions you need to ask yourself to see that if it's actually going to work out for you or it's not going to work out for you. The first and foremost problem is this: an industry-wide challenge. Now, please understand this. If you are facing if you are facing a challenge within your own company, maybe a blockchain is not the best solution. Okay. Because you could figure out some other application to fix your problems internally. But if it is an industry-wide challenge, so the whole industry is facing a problem, it would make sense to go for a blockchain. But please remember that convincing an entire industry to go for blockchain is not easy. If each company involved in that industry is at their own financial cycle, they're at their own decision-making processes, they're in their own security and technology lifeline. So please understand, this is a very, very critical problem. Don't just jump in and say, yeah, we can use blockchain, and then consult the industry. First, consult the industry and see if the industry is up for it. You would also need heavy inputs from government, large corporates, regulatory bodies, think tanks, to be able to actually support you to build an industry-wide application. So if you look at IBM and Maersk, so IBM, of course, is a big company, and Maersk Shipping is also a massive company. So they are able to actually build an industry-wide application where they're able to get the other smaller shipping companies to join them. So an industry-wide application is definitely the way to go for blockchain. But remember that it is very, very difficult to actually convince a whole industry to go for this. So try to get as many friendships, if you like, from government entities, as well as from larger companies, bigger corporates, and try to join to support you in this movement. The last and the most important question you need to ask yourself before recommending blockchain to anybody in your ecosystem is, can this be done with an existing technology? Please do not go and go and recommend blockchain if you feel, or if there is a database, or if there is a security feature, or if there is something that can manage this. There are a lot of similar technologies which are not blockchain or even related to blockchain, can somehow manage these ecosystem processes, but not in the way blockchain does. So this is a very important question. Please keep yourself aware and ask this question each time you need to. Now I'm going to go into questions again, because I think we need to spend some time discussing these 18 questions. So I'm going to open it up for questions again.
Sure.
What do we have? Primarily in payments, Murthy, sorry, okay. How far this blockchain help education field, Bhuvaneshwari? Blockchain and education, blockchain education is more around the use for certificates and issuing sort of valuable assets that cannot be replicated. So that's a good use case. How can we bring multiple stakeholders on a blockchain? Senthil. How can we bring multiple users on a blockchain? Is this possible by big companies like? Yeah, I mean, if Senthil, if you were working for one of these big boys, yeah, it makes sense. It would make life easier for you, honestly, because if you look at the recent use cases, it's all been PepsiCo and all the JP Morgans and all the Starbucks and all the IBMs are the ones who are able to make something like this happen. Nirupam, if it is not hosted by a trusted authority, then how can we make sure that no one tampered with data? I think we answered this one in the last round of questions, but you have a lot of cryptography and Merkle trees and hashing strategies that you can use to make sure that it's not tampered with data. Is there any consistent hashing concept so that no data is lost in the node, in one node? Merkle trees is what is being used right now in Nirupam. I think we discussed this already. Somehow the voice of Irfan is breaking. Is my voice okay? Will private blockchains store only in the enterprise's storage? Yeah, of course, it's a closed network. Rahul, Naimish is asking where to start if I want to start a mini private blockchain project. Just go download Bitcoin Core, Naimish. It's the best way out. Senthil is asking, please share. Okay. Ranjit, are there any successful examples of blockchains in India? I think they're still in progress, but please follow what the telco are doing. So there is a huge consortium coming between Vodafone, Idea, and Jio, and there is some massive noise around what Airtel is doing around this space. Anshu, since blockchain is about the ecosystems, how is the cost of building a blockchain and application infrastructure shared between the entities? Okay, so we can take Ripple's example here. How it works is, what Ripple they have done is they have built the entire network, and each bank that wants to join the network, they have to pay an X amount to join. So that's one good way to do it. Where to start if I want to start a mini private blockchain project? Namish, again, you go to Bitcoin Core and download and start. Why don't you think Aadhaar UIN could be implemented on blockchain? It should be. It should be on the blockchain. I don't know why they haven't done it as yet. Any blockchain use case in the construction industry? Construction industry, again, would be around supply chain. You could take a look at that, Nikhil. Varun says, can we build a blockchain for document repository in an organization like managing your IP, KYC, copyrights, blockchain, DLT, private permission? Thoughts, please. Can we build a blockchain for document repository? Yeah, you can. There is a project called, I don't know if you're talking about a decentralized, because if you're talking about organization, then it's probably a closed network, which is a Hyperledger sort of application. Yeah, you can definitely do that. I'm not sure why you want to do KYC, but if it's an enterprise type application doing registration for customers, yeah, you can definitely do all these on the blockchains, and especially using cryptography to add security and privacy. Blockchain seems helpful in record keeping. This would need storage capacity. Will this not be a valid scenario? Well, yeah, of course you need storage. But again, transactions are a bit low, SK, so it'll take some time before we're actually up to speed in the expectations of the TPS that we have right now. You mentioned that blockchain has limitation of transaction. Do we have any limit as healthcare as huge transactions? If so, BFSI sector. See, again, that depends. If it's a enterprise type closed blockchain, you can add more processing powers and maybe even move into a different level of the way transactions are recorded. You can speed it up. It's not impossible. But I think the best use case here would be, you see how Ethereum is doing it. They have a very low, I mean, it's going to increase. I think it was 16 or 20 transactions per second. It's going to go up now, but it's still quite low when you look at Visa, who is doing like 6,000 or 7,000 transactions. Will private blockchains store data only in the enterprise storage? Yeah, sure, Rahul. We are looking to work on law violation prevention systems, which include raising challans based on inputs from IoT devices, making in small. Yes, this is a very good use case. Providing you are, so Deepak, this is a very good use case for law violation, providing you have recorded that violation data on the blockchain with a timestamp and geolocation. This is where you will use oracles as well as smart contracts. So yeah, please go ahead and do it. This is a very good use case. There was news last week where telecom industry is going to use blockchain. That is correct. The thing is, we can talk about that, but it's going to go into some detail, because what they're basically doing is, Atit, is once you are blocking someone, that number is being tracked. Anyway, we can, please ping me offline. We will have a discussion on that. Next, Ravi's asking, with transactions being immutable, have the source of truth and trust, does it make sense to use this technology to build apps, especially in pharma? Original one, fake drugs, diamond industry, yes. So I think De Beers is already doing something. Pharma is already investigating. What they're talking about here is basically tracking original medication. So once the medication is manufactured and transported with a barcode on it, when you buy it, essentially you scan the barcode and it gives you a whole history data of where it's been. So that's a good use case of blockchain as well. Can we build a blockchain of ATMs? Well, a Bitcoin ATM, which is available right now, is sort of a small node with a blockchain of ATMs. So yeah, you can do that. But it depends what kind of currency you're moving on that ATM. Sankarsan, okay. Karthikeyan, blockchain adoption in real estate, like what Telangana government did. Why is it late to be adopted by other governments? Why is adoption late by other governments? I'm not sure. I'm guessing it's a complicated tech, and Telangana and Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka have always been ahead in technology ever since the beginning inherently. So I guess it's something which the South does much better than the rest of the states in India. Can blockchain be implemented globally with the use of a consortium? Many startups are trying their innovation using blockchain, but they don't get adequate attention and focus in market. How can we convince blockchain is a good solution to an organization? Senthil, again, your question is difficult to answer, because firstly, it's a very new technology. It's going to take some time before we reach a certain level of adoptability, even the transactions per second I mentioned earlier, and there is a huge learning curve as well. So how keys are managed, how username passwords are managed, how storage is managed, it's a whole new thought process. So being able to actually manage this is explaining to people is not easy. So what is most important in blockchain right now is people going out there and building applications that are so simple to use that people actually start utilizing them. There is no applications as such where people are using it on a daily basis. I think Pinterest has recently released a marketplace for digital content. Please go check that out. That's a good use case as well. How effective is blockchain in the agriculture industry? So Sumit Topo, farm to fork is a huge. If you're coming from the agri-tech industry, I'm sure you understand farm to fork. So adding source information as well as how and where the agriculture industry processes food before it reaches the consumer is a huge use case. A lot of people using it. Loan processing on a, yeah, but again, loan processing, it's a very small. Please think about ecosystem. Please think about ecosystem, Sanskaran. So if you want to add all the loan providers in the country, yes, that would make a very good blockchain use case, right? So everyone who's providing loans in the country is on one network. That would make a lot of sense. Can blockchain systems comply with privacy regulations? It depends on the privacy regulations. GDPR, if you're talking about GDPR, the essence of GDPR is, of course, there are a lot of rules and regulations involved, but the essence of GDPR is that you should not be collecting unnecessary data, and unnecessary data means data that you're not supposed to collect. And essentially, whatever data you're collecting should be deletable with proof. So if you're able to prove these two things using the blockchain, then definitely it is the right use case. So when you're talking about GDPR, you have to show proof that certain information was deleted from the database. The only way that you can prove that something was deleted from a database is by blockchain. So definitely it complies heavily with a lot of privacy regulations, but it depends how it's implemented again. So Smith is asking, is it preferable to store mostly hashes on a blockchain and keep the data off-chain or in existing databases? Again, blockchain is not very good idea for massive data. Hash data is recommended to keep on the blockchains. DigiLocker will use for storing document. Can we make use of blockchain in this use case? DigiLocker, yeah, you can store documents on a blockchain, but it's not a very good idea considering you don't really store that kind of structured data on a blockchain. So you would probably hash it and then store a hash of that document on the blockchain with a URL to access it. How do I ping you offline? You can email me, irfan@hypermind.in. Can you please talk about the extent of use case and some use cases in global in-house centers? Okay, maybe Ratandeep, you can ping me offline. Definitely, we can have a discussion on this. We don't have a lot of time, and I need to wrap this up. Public cloud providers provide blockchain as SaaS. Is this a good starting point to build a POC? Yeah, it is a good starting point to build a POC. We do that. We build our POCs on AWS, especially for enterprise type. But mind you, they're very expensive. I end up paying like a 7,000 rupee bill per month just to host it. Okay, so be careful. The EC2, EC3 instances on AWS are very expensive. But at the end of the day, remember, blockchain is all about decentralization of ecosystems and economies. We don't want to be bogged down again with centralization. So building a decentralized network on a centralized network, it's sort of going against the whole point. I hope I answered your question, Soham. Susmit again asks, how about if the fake medicines are applied with an authenticated blockchain specific QR code? Won't that defy the purpose? I don't understand your question. What if the medicines are applied with authenticate? Susmit, please ping me. We will go into this detail, definitely, because we did one project with Dubai Healthcare Authority in Dubai, and there was a similar situation. We can talk about that. Ravi Verma, can blockchain be useful in transportation and travel industry, and how? Transportation, definitely. So if you are transporting food or fresh food or flowers or even people, you can have these little tracking boxes, which little black box that captures the temperature, the geolocation, the time, and basically that black box, once the vehicle reaches destination, you can always plug into the blockchain, pull the data off it using an Oracle, and you can have that data logged on the blockchain. So you can even do it on 3G and Wi-Fi, but it depends. We can talk about that. So ping me definitely is a good use case, and we can talk about that. Can blockchain be useful in transportation? Okay, is there a recent article that blockchain network was hacked? Yeah, blockchains get hacked all the time. I think even the Ethereum cache was hacked. It depends. If you have a public blockchain, a 51% attack is very possible, because what usually hackers do is they take over 51% of the nodes in the network, and that's how they're able to sort of manage the consensus, and that's how they hack it. Even the way usually cryptography is not hacked, but is the implementation of the cryptography that makes it hackable. So yeah, even in private blockchains, depending, it is possible to hack. It's not impossible. And with quantum computers coming, definitely it's becoming a joke. Is there any case study reference of what, Ravi? Okay, talking about travel industry. Yeah, there are lots. There are lots in IBM. Healthcare blockchain. I think Kolkata, Datla Varma. I think Kolkata is issuing birth certificates on the blockchain. Maybe you want to just do some homework on that. Soumya, you can ping me, irfan@hypermind.in. Can you suggest me an application of blockchain employee management and timesheet management? Yeah, Dipankar, I can help you with that. Please ping me. Please ping me offline, and my email address should be on the screen right now. Which are the companies in India that have adopted blockchain? I think it's really the big ones. I know Airtel and the telcos are doing something around that. Let's see what else. Rahul, would hybrid blockchain be possible where private blockchain is more than 50% and remaining is public to make it more secure? The way private and public blockchains are inherently different. A public blockchain like Ethereum or Bitcoin is anyone and everyone can access it. So which sort of makes it more secure the more people access it. So hybrid is sort of closed. So you have more maybe TLS/security/cryptography or different security features to actually ensure that the network is closed. But I'm not really sure I follow your question. Maybe you want to ping me offline and then we can have a discussion on the security aspect of it. Okay, guys, thank you. I think we've crossed it. Any last questions? We'll close now.
Any more questions, anyone?
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Irfan, for this wonderful presentation. The insights shared and the use cases you discussed have provided probably a deeper perspective about this emerging technology known as blockchain. For more information about the webinars coming up in the month of June, please visit nasscom.in/events. And Irfan will be here with us again, probably by the end of June or in the month of July, with another interesting episode on the topic blockchain. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.